Welcome to Kids Recall. In today's video, we will be going through the 2022 movie, The Sea Beast. It's time to recall. Let's get started. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we see a girl named Maisie who is telling her fellow students a story as they are gathered in a room. She tells them the story of a sea beast and how they were destroyed to keep the vessels safe. The caretaker of the place shows up and tells everyone to go to sleep because it's past their bedtime. While all the other kids go to sleep after the woman leaves, Maisie goes on to climb the wardrobe and gets out of the place through a window. The scene changes to the sea, and we see that a sailor named Jacob has been informed that a monstrous creature has been seen in these waters. The captain of the ship goes on to say that it has got to be the red bluster. This is the monster who ripped out one of the captain's eyes. They then go on to see another ship being brutally attacked by another giant creature. The ship is called the Nickelbone ship, and despite the fact that the captain wants to finish off the red bluster, he ends up taking Jacob's advice and changes the ship's course to try and save the ship that is currently under attack. Their ship is called the Inevitable, and when it draws near the ship that is currently under attack, the captain goes on to shoot a flare gun to draw the monster's attention towards them. Their people get ready with their spears, and upon the captain's command, the cannons are fired on the monster. They lose sight of the monster for a moment, and the captain named Crow notices that there are seagulls on top of his ship, and it means only one thing: the monster is below the vessel already. This is when the monster shows up. Leaping out of the water, it wreaks havoc to the ship. It right away starts capturing the sailors with its tentacles. Jacob bravely tries to save the people on his ship and then goes on to try and hurl a harpoon at the monster's head. And this is when the vessel is finally released and they can move now. Jacob then sits, taking a sigh of relief. It, however, turns out to be a good idea as the monster appears yet again and goes on to hit Jacob with its tentacle, sending him off into the water. The monster then goes underwater and tries to swallow him. Jacob, however, is a great swimmer and keeps dodging the monster's attacks even underwater. Jacob then somehow manages to land on the monster's back, and he stabs the monster with his knife this time. The captain takes advantage of the opportunity, lunges at the monster with a big spear, and drives it through the neck, finishing it off. When the monster's horn is cut off by the captain, thinking that it's lifeless now, the monster grabs Crow in his tentacle and takes him to the depths of the sea. He is, however, saved by Jacob. The captain then orders the crew to head back home because the ship is now destroyed and he's not going to be able to capture the red bluster now. That night, Crow goes on to call Jacob to his room and tells him that once he has killed the red bluster, he's going to put an end to his journey as a captain, and Jacob will take command in his place. He says that he knew it from the moment he laid eyes on Jacob when he was just a boy and Crow had adopted him as a son. He always knew that Jacob was one day going to be the captain of the Inevitable. They get home and are warmly welcomed by everyone, as they are the most famous monster hunters, as the Crow gathers around the ship. Maisie is also seen among them. She approaches Jacob and tells him that she's a big fan of his work. She goes on to tell him that her parents were great monster hunters, and they sailed the ships of the Monarch. Jacob likes the girl's confidence. She then goes on to tell him that she has escaped from an orphanage, and in Jacob's next journey, she's going to go with him to fight off the sea monsters. Jacob, however, does not think so, as he goes on to tell the girl that the sea monsters are dangerous, and the sea is not a place for children. The girl then goes on to say that she has to see the captain, but Jacob picks her up, puts her in a wagon, and tells the man to take her back to the orphanage. And the next day, Crow and his crew members make their way to the royal palace to present the horn of the beast they finished off on the journey. The king gives them a great reward, but he still says he would have liked it if they had completed their main quest. He then goes on to show them his new ship called the Imperator. He goes on to tell Crow that his own navy captain is going to sail this ship into the sea and that he will take care of the monster. Crow is pissed off. He says that the weapons on the ship are just useless, and the captain of the ship is even more useless than those weapons. The naval admiral of the King's Sea Guard feels the hunters are outdated and will carry on the hunting of sea beasts in their place. This angers Crow and Sarah and nearly results in their arrest before Jacob proposes that his crew be given one more chance to kill the red bluster to prove their worth. The king and queen and Admiral Hornigold accept, with the crown declaring a contest between the crews of the Imperator and the Inevitable, and the winner being allowed to hunt the sea beast in their name. The king also agrees with this, and they set out on the ocean to look for the monster. Jacob goes on to say that this monster is really big, so they're going to have to use fire bombs, adding that arrows are not going to do much, so they should use long spears on this monster. When they're about to leave, they're surrounded by many people, and everyone decides to celebrate the beginning of their big and very important voyage. The captain tells all of them that they should drink to the occasion, and the barrels of wine are brought forward. One of the barrels seems unusual by its weight, and when Jacob opens it, he finds Maisie in it. Maisie goes on to impress the captain with her knowledge of their ship, and Crow is also impressed by her bravery. Crow then goes on to tell Sarah to take her on the ship among the female staff. She hands the girl a knife and tells her to be obedient or she's going to suffer a lot on the ship. As they sail on, the night falls and Crow tells his boys to shoot flares to attract the monster. Maisie also joins Jacob and Crow, telling them that she's really excited to see and kill the red monster. The captain, however, orders her to go to sleep right away. As he talks to Jacob, Crow tells him that Maisie reminds him a little of Jacob, and he used to be just like her. The ship starts shaking, meaning that the monster is around. The seagulls appear, and this is when they see the red monster charging at their ship. The hunters are ready with their spears and fireballs, and they're distributed right away. They shoot the monster with these, but it still keeps charging the front of the ship. They go on to throw ropes at the monster to connect him to the ship so they don't lose him. The monster, however, is too powerful and keeps dragging the ship despite their tries to attack him with harpoons. The ship now starts to lose balance when the monster swims in a circle, dragging the ship. Jacob then goes on to tell the monster that the boat is not going to hold and that they have to disconnect the monster now. The monster is still pulling the ship, and Maisie now thinks that if they keep on going, they could all die because the ship would be destroyed. She starts cutting the big rope with her knife. Crow sees her and tells her that if she did that, she is going to be eliminated from the crow. Jacob runs to stop the girl but soon realizes that she is right and he lets her do it. When the ship gets disconnected from the monster, there's a big jerk and the ship gets back to normal. But during that, Jacob and Maisie fall off the ship. They land on a small boat nearby. Crow shouts at Jacob to give up the girl to him, and this is when the red monster shows up yet again and goes on to swallow them whole along with the boat. They're now inside his mouth, and Jacob decides to see what there is in the inner walls of the monster. They then go on to see that the monster has taken them close to an island. Jacob says that he is going to eliminate the monster now. He then goes on to untie Maisie's rope, and as he tries to attack the monster by putting his spear in its nose, the monster sneezes and throws Jacob away to the island. The monster then notices that there is still someone and brings Maisie in front of him. Maisie's now caught between the monster's teeth. Maisie notices that the monster is really calm and does not hurt her at all. Jacob then moves quickly towards the monster with the help of the rope and points a spear right at the monster's eye to pierce it with a spear. Maisie, however, goes on to stop Jacob as she cuts the rope. She now knows that the monster is not dangerous, that the humans have been misunderstanding them. Jacob again runs towards his spear to attack the monster again, but Red this time brings a lot of water to the beach, and Jacob has to hold on to a coconut tree for dear life. Red then decides that this battle between him and Jacob is nothing and leaves the shore. Jacob and Maisie then get into an argument, and the girl, of course, now has a different take on the monster. They then hear weird noises coming from the forest. Both of them then get some fruits to eat, and they sit together. Maisie goes on to say that it's not right on their part to kill that monster because it was not at all trying to hurt them. Back on the ship, Crow is pissed off as he grieves, thinking that his adopted son is dead. He's joined by Sarah, who goes on to tell him that the ship is sinking because there's a hole in the hull and the water keeps coming. Crow, however, does not seem to care about that, as he goes on to say that he's going to find the little witch, and that is when the scene changes to Maisie, who wakes up on the island as a little blue creature tries to steal her food from her. The girl sees the animal, but it runs away. She then gently approaches the animal and lures it towards her, giving the animal more food to eat. She then feels like she has stepped on something, and that is when Jacob sees her. And she is surrounded by many giant eggs, but luckily she hasn't broken any of them. He then goes to her, trying his best not to step on eggs. He grabs the blue animal from her and flings it far away into the forest, and then picks her up to safely get her out of the egg's place. He, however, loses his balance and ends up stepping on several giant eggs. They break, and a small sea monster comes out of them, and they start screaming. They try to flee the place, but the monsters keep following them, despite the fact that they did not harm them. They then get to their boat and try to sail away from the monsters, as they have now called their mother to the scene too. They take a sigh of relief thinking they've gotten away from the monster and are attacked by a giant crab who tries to swallow them whole. Jacob tries to fight off the giant crab, but he of course can't fight such a big and powerful creature. Just as the two think they're about to become food for the crab, the red bluster shows up and goes on to save the two of them from the giant crab by scaring him away. The crab then gets back and a fight between the red bluster and the crab begins. Red tries to attack him, but his horn is grabbed by one of the crab's fangs. Maisie right away hits the crab right in the eye and lets go of Red, but Maisie goes hurling towards the deep water. Jacob then goes on to throw a spear with all his might and hits the giant crab with good impact. Red takes the opportunity and goes on to attack the giant crab, throwing him away. While Jacob tries to look for Maisie, she is seen coming toward him, being carried by the blue animal she fed earlier. Believing Jacob to be dead, Crow seeks out an elderly merchant named Gwyn Batterby, who gives Crow a poison-tipped harpoon, powerful enough to kill Red. While on Red's back, Jacob and Maisie bond with the creature, and each other, with Jacob growing to support Maisie's belief that the beast being innocent. They reach Rum Pepper Island but discover that the Imperator and Hornigold are stationed there. Red attacks the vessel after being shot by a crew member and inadvertently wounds Maisie in the scuffle. After destroying the Imperator, Jacob momentarily stops Red from killing Hornigold. Red spots the inevitable and attacks, but is shot with a poison-tipped harpoon and nearly dies, with Crow keeping her alive long enough to bring her to the crown as a trophy. Maisie's nursed back to health and then imprisoned aboard the Inevitable as it arrives at Three Bridges with Red in tow. After Blue frees Maisie, she realizes the hatred of sea beasts is all propaganda created by the Crown to extend their rule. Crow prepares to publicly execute Red before being stopped by Jacob. Crow and Jacob fight, while Maisie and Sarah, who begin to believe Maisie's worldview of the beast, free Red from her binds. Maisie and Jacob convince Red to spare Crow, subsequently exposing the Crown for their deceptions. After witnessing the passive nature of the beast, Crow and the rest of the kingdom renounce their beliefs. With Red and the other sea beasts left alone, Maisie, Blue, and Jacob begin their new lives together as a family. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on the notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. And thank you for watching.